Hi everyone, I am Liz and I'm one of the creative managers over at Premier Yarns, and I'd like to say thank you for joining me today to crochet this bag. Thank you to Michaels for sponsoring this class. So this is the bag we're going to go over today. This is called the In Bloom Tote, and this is made. Here's our bag. You should have the pattern. I'm going to go step by step through the pattern as much as I possibly can. Because I think that going through the pattern helps with pattern reading skills as well. So we're going to try to work through it as much as I can. And if you have any questions, feel free to just jump in anytime with a question. So let's switch over to my hand so I can show you what we're going to be using. I've got my printed pattern here. Here is the actual bag. We are going to be using Capri Ego Cotton. This one is, I think it's a cotton blend, but anytime you're using cotton for bags, that's a good option because it washes well and it's pretty sturdy if you're going to be, carrying things in here. This one's nice and solid. It's got a nice solid bottom, so you don't have to worry about things falling through and such. So I'm using my 5mm hook. You're going to use any size that you get your correct gauge with. For bags, it's not quite as important if your bag's a tiny bit smaller or a tiny bit larger than mine. If your gauge is a little bit off, that's probably going to be fine. But if you're making something like a sweater or a hat or gloves, you're going to want to make sure you get the correct gauge every time. Okay, so let's get right into it. And of course, you can use any color you want. You can kind of switch. You can kind of switch colors and do stripes or whatever. Just kind of have fun with it. Okay, let me make sure I'm close enough here. If you can't see anything or if you can't hear me, just jump in. So we kind of went through the materials. This right here has a few different stitches that I'm going to show you how to do. The puff stitches, which are these, and just the twin puff. So those we'll go over all those. So let's start with the base, and we're going to join all our rounds with a slip stitch in the beginning single crochet. So for the very first part, we're going to do a lot of single crochets. So let's start with a chain of 33. I'd say the most difficult part is this bottom base because you have to be real exact about which chains you're working into, because we're going to be doing some increasing and things like that in the very beginning. Get really close so you can see. Okay, so we're going to start with a chain of 33. I'm at 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33. And if you guys all want to just pop in the chat and say hello, you can let us know where you're watching from, where you're crocheting from. I am in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's been a hot few weeks here, and we're still kind of hot. We had a little bit of nice weather last night, but that was about it. Okay, so this right here is the first. I like to work in the back bumps. So if you make your chain, this is your beginning chain. You can see it looks like a chain, but if you turn it over, you can see that it looks slightly different, and there's these little like hills or bumps. I always work into those because I think it makes a nicer finish, but for this project in particular, you kind of have to work into those because we're going to be working into this side of the chain, and then we're going to be working into this side of the chain as well. So we're working, it's going to be worked out like this in and around, okay? We're not going to be turning, we're working in rounds. So into these little bumps, we are going to start. There's one bump. Here is the next one. So I'm going to go right into that second one and make a single crochet. Now I'm going to mark this first one because as we work around, it's gonna it's gonna be a little hard to see your stitches, a little harder to see your stitches. So I'm just gonna put a mark, my stitch marker here. And just to make sure I remember that's the very first stitch I made, okay? And now I'm gonna go into the next bump because it says working the back bumps of the chains, single crochet in the second chain from the hook. We just did that. And now single crochet in each chain across to the last chain. So I'm going to work into each of these chains with a single crochet. And over, pull through 2. So under just the bump, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going just under that one strand of yarn, which is the bump. Once you get used to working into these back bumps of the chain, you'll see you're going to always get a nicer finish. And to me, it's actually easier to see these little bumps here. So we're going to work under each one of these till I get to the last one. And don't make your starting chain, make it like nice and not too loose, but definitely not too tight, or you'll have trouble working into both sides of the chain if you make it really tight. And that's true for any time, of course. You don't ever want to make it too tight because your end product won't be even. It'll be kind of like tight at the edge and looser throughout. And then it'll be harder to work into too. So try to get your tension to where it's just nice and easy, not too loose, not too tight. Okay, so I'm coming to the end here. You can see I have 2 more left, 1 and 2. And my instructions tell me to work into every chain until I get to the last chain. And then I'm going to work 2 into this last chain. So that's where I'm going to increase to turn the corner. So that's 1, and then another single crochet into that same chain. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Now here's where it's a little weird because we have to work into the other side of here. So like a racetrack, you're going to go around and turn around the corner, and then go around and turn around this corner, and then keep going around like that, right? If you can speak to us and not just trying to read my computer here. Oh, hi from Buffalo. Debbie's here, and we have somebody from Pennsylvania, not to help us understand what you're saying. Okay, so, yep, I am speaking to all of you guys, and if you have any questions, let me know, and I will try to answer them as best as I can. So what I'm doing is showing you how we get in this very last chain, how we're going to turn around, right? Because this one looks kind of weird, but we're going to have to work into this first chain because it says in the directions, you're going to rotate your piece and single crochet in the next 31 unused loops on the opposite side of the foundation chain. So you rotate it however feels comfortable for you. But this side are the unused loops on the opposite side of the foundation chain. See how I said they would look nicer if you worked into that back bump? It looks just like a regular single crochet. So we're going to work into these. Technically they're unused loops, but they're just like stitches, right? But the only thing that happens is this first one gets a little squished. So you're gonna have to remember not to miss that first one. So we're gonna work one into that very first one, which is right here. See how it got a little squished? I'm gonna work a single crochet into there with this tail. That's my first one. And then I'm gonna work a single crochet into each one of these for a total of 31. So it tells me 31. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 'Make sure I stay on camera for you guys. 9, 10, 11. And I'm kind of going a little fast, but you can tell me to slow down. 13, 14, because I want to make sure I can show you as much as I can. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 27, 28, 29, 30, and then it says the pattern says 31, so I'm at 31. If you feel like you couldn't keep up, you couldn't count, then just go back and start at your marker and you can count. So that way, if you lose count or whatever. So it said to do 31. I'm at 31 here, but if you can see, I have 1 stitch left. So my pattern says 2 single crochet in the last unused loop, right? So I'm on round 1. 2 single crochet in the last unused loop. So I know I'm on the right track because I have 1 single crochet left. So we just put 2 single crochet in the last unused loop. And it's definitely going to be helpful to go around and count all these to make sure I have the right stitch count, okay? But if you can see, I just went all around that chain. And this is how you would make a big oval. If you did this with like a thicker yarn, you would just have a bigger base for your bag if you wanted to use a different yarn. But I'm going to count because I want to make sure that we're on the right track, and you guys can count yours if you're working along with me. So starting at my stitch marker, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 30, 31, 32, 33, 35, 6, 58, 60, 62, 64, and 66. So we should all have 66 on our round 1. That was round 1. Okay. Let's go to round 2. Round 2 says chain 1 does not count as a stitch. 2 single crochet in the same stitch, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 30 stitches. So like I said, we have to do a lot of counting in this very, like for the base of the bag, but once you get up to these rounds, you can just go around and around. You don't really have to worry about losing count. But at this point, we're doing a lot of increasing at different points around. So we have to make sure our stitch count is correct. So I'm going to join here. So insert my hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through to join with a slip stitch. For the first stitch, it says 2 single crochet in the same stitch. So chain up 1 into that same stitch. You work 2 single crochets. 1. Okay, I'm going to work 2, but this is the first one. So we need to mark it because we want to mark our first stitch throughout. 1 and 2. 2 single crochet in the first stitch. Single crochet in the next 30. So let's just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Someone said hi from Livonia. Michigan? I've never heard of Livonia. That's the first time I've heard of that city.
I have a question that was sent directly to me.
Oh, okay.
Wendy asked, do you recommend always going into the bumps of the first chain or just for this project?
I personally do it with every single project I do because it just makes a nicer finish and I feel like it's easy to see. So yes, I would recommend doing that on all your projects. Just try it out. And I mean, it's not, with some projects like this one, you kind of have to, so you can work into the other side of the chain. But unless it's a project like this, you don't have to, but I would always recommend it just because I think it makes a nicer finish. So try it out and see what you think about it. I think once you get used to it, it's actually easier too. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that for all projects. It's not going to make it like if you're doing a specific thing, it won't work with that. It'll work with any project. Okay, so let me count here because I stopped counting. So I did my first 2. And then I'm supposed to do 30. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 29, and 30. So you should have done 2 in the first stitch and then 30 across. Okay. Tunisian crochet uses bump. Yeah, Tunisian, you're going to go into the bars, right? So you'll always see those little bars. I might do a Tunisian class. I like to do Tunisian. It's fun. Where are we? We are on round 2. Okay, so now here's where we're going to do some increasing, right? So we did single crochet in the next 30 stitches. And then it says do 2 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And that's where we have to increase to turn the corner. Because if you notice, if you just work in around and around and around, what happens if you don't increase? It will start to move up, right? Like a tube, and you'll just have a tube. But if you want your piece to lay flat, you have to increase. So that way it spreads out flat evenly, right? So if somebody told me once, if you're in a car and you're going around, you have to turn around, like you have to have more distance around in order to turn that corner, right? So the more, like if you want it to lay flat, you have to keep making that distance around. So that's why we have to keep increasing. Just like you would in a circle, we're doing the same thing that you would in a flat circle, but we're making a flat oval, right? So we're only increasing at these points, and then at these points incrementally, and then down the center, we don't have to increase, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to do 2 single crochets, 2 single crochets, 2 single crochets, right? So 3 increases to turn the corner. So 2, and then the next one, 2, 1, 2, and then in the third one, 2, 1 and 2. And now my piece will lay flat. Now my pattern says single crochet in the next 30 stitches. So we have to count again. I'm at 10. 12, 13, 14, 15. Yes, I was waiting for the Tunisian class. Yeah, so I'll try to get that one. I have a few planned for the next 3 months, I believe. So it'll be after that, but I'll try to make that one my next one after the ones that are already planned. Tunisian. I have some dishcloth patterns that I did recently. So we'll make some fun Tunisian dishcloths in like different Tunisian stitches. So we can learn a few different stitches. But that's another class, of course. Okay. I lost count, of course. So if you lose count, just go back and recount. Okay, here's where I put the 2. So this is where I needed to start 30 stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. Okay, so now I did 30 and it looks like I have 2 stitches left, right? Here's one and here's one. This is actually part of the first stitch, even though it looks like another stitch, I think. So now it says, where are we? Round 2, we're still on round 2. 2 single crochet in each of the last 2 stitches and then join. And then we'll be done with round 2. So 2, 1, 2, and then in the last one, 1, 2. See how this is always confusing when I work in rounds. It looks like this is another stitch that you have to work into, but it's actually not. It's actually where we did the slip stitch. Like this is the slip stitch and then this is the first stitch. So all this, don't work into that. I know it kind of, to me, it's confusing. Probably not confusing to everybody, but to me that was always confusing because that looked like another stitch that you had to work into. But it's not. So we're going to join right here where our first stitch was. And we're going to join that with a slip stitch. So that finishes round 2. So go ahead and count around and make sure you have, according to the pattern, we should have 72 single crochets. And then we'll go on to round 3. So round 3, chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch. Let's just do that before we start talking about the stars. Okay, chain 1. I'm going to remove this. Single crochet in the same stitch. And we mark that first stitch so we don't lose our place. Make sure I don't have any questions. Okay. We are on round 3. Now we've got a little star. That indicates that we're going to have to do a repeat. 2 single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet in the next 31 stitches, and then it keeps going, right, until the next star. So we'll just start because we're gonna forget if we have to do everything at once. So I'll just start at the star, 2 single crochet in the next stitch. Here's the next stitch. 1, 2. Single crochet in the next 31. Okay, now we have to count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. At 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 28, 29, 30, and 31. Okay, and that puts us back at the top where we need to turn the corner again. So we know we need to increase here to keep the piece flat, right? So 2 single crochet in the next stitch. We did that. Single crochet in the next 31. 2 single crochet in the next stitch. Single crochet in the next stitch. 2 single crochet in the next stitch. It gets very wordy, but if you can kind of understand why we're increasing the way we are, it makes sense. So 2 single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, 2 single crochet in the next stitch, 2. Okay, so what we did was we worked everything between this star and this star. We did 2 single crochet in the next stitch, and then we did single crochet all across, which was 31. We did 2 single crochet in the next, single crochet in the next, 2 single crochet in the next. Now we have to do single crochet in the next before we do the repeat, right? So we're going to do that one little last thing, single crochet in the next. And now it says repeat from the star to the star 1 time. So we're only going to do everything that falls between this star and this star. So we're not going to do this last one. So, and we only have to do that 1 time. So start back at the star, 2 single crochet in the next stitch, 1, 2, and then single crochet in the next 31, 2, 4, oops, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. Okay, I still have a few stitches left, but I have a few more instructions within those stars, right? So let's see, what did we do? So we did single crochet in the next 31, and now it says 2 single crochet in the next, single crochet in the next. Same exact thing that we did. 2 single crochet in the next, single crochet in the next, 2 single crochet in the next, and that's where the star ends. And looks like I did that right because I have 1 stitch left. So if you have 1 stitch left and you only have 1 stitch according to the directions that you need to work into, then you know you're on the right track. So 2 single crochet in the next, which is the last stitch. If you didn't have any stitches left in your round, or if you had 2, then you missed something somewhere. You have to go back and figure out what you did wrong. So basically we just did, we did what was in this within the star, and then the instructions told us to do what was in the star one more time, which is what we did. And we should have 78 single crochet for round 3. Let's just stop and count to make sure we did everything right. So I'm going to start at my stitch marker. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50, 52, 54, 56, 58, 60, 62, 64, 66, 68, 70, 72, 74, 76, 78. So you should have 78 stitches around at this point. So is this making sense how we're doing the increases? It's like very similar to when you're increasing in a flat circle. The only difference is instead of increasing evenly all around that circle, we're only increasing evenly on the 2 side edges, so we can make an oval instead of a circle. So that's the basic concept here. Let's do one more round, or 1 or 2 more rounds. And it's, like I said, it's the same, it's kind of the same, what would you call it? Like equation, I guess, maybe, or method. But we're gonna space these increases out a little bit differently for round 4. So round 4, okay, so we got to remember to join our round. Join with a slip stitch. Round 4, I'm going to chain 1, and then it says 2 single crochet in the same stitch. So that's 1 and 2, and don't forget to mark your first stitch so you don't get messed up. Someone says, yes, it does. Good. I'm glad it makes sense. Will we have time to do that? Yes. So I think I'm going to do one more round of increases here, and then we'll be on to the puff stitch. Okay. But I just want to do one more round just to make sure everybody understands this sort of increase stuff. The puff stitches are easy. We'll do those in the very next step. Okay. So I did 2 single crochet in the same stitch. Now I'm going to do single crochet in the next 32 stitches. So you can see it's very similar to what we did in the last round. We have more stitches now, so we're going to do 32 instead of 31. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. We'll probably have time to do the strap too. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. Back to my instructions. Single crochet in the next 32, 2 single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet in the next 2 stitches. 2 single crochet in the next, that's where we do the increase. And then single crochet in the next 2. 1 and 2. Single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Okay. Wait a second, let me make sure we did that right. 32, we did an increase here, we did 2, and then we have to do another increase. 2 single crochets in this stitch, that's my increase. And then single crochet in the next 2. 1, 2. And that's where the star ends. So then we have to do 1 more increase, and then we're going to repeat from star to star 1 time. So it's very similar to what we did on the last round. So 1 more increase, 2 single crochets in this stitch. And then repeat from star to star. Okay, so back up to my star, single crochet in the next 32. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and make sure you 18, count your stitches after every round. 21, 22, just to make sure you're on the right track. 23, 24, 25, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. Hopefully I counted right. So I still have a few stitches left, but I know I have to do everything between those stars. So 2 single crochet in the next, single crochet in the next 2, 2 single crochet in the next, single crochet in the next 2, right? 2 single crochet in the next, that's my increase. Single crochet in the next 2, 1, 2, 2 single crochet in the next, that's my increase, and single crochet in the next 2. And that's the end of the round because we just had to do from star to star 1 time. Now you can see it's looking kind of like just the base of this bag. And you're going to be doing the same exact thing. What will happen is it will be like increase and then single crochet in the next 3, increase, single crochet in the next 3, and then the next round will be increase, single crochet in the next 4, like that. So it's in the same kind of way you do a circle, but you just have to remember that these side ones, there's no increases here. So this is what your base will look like once you do all of the rounds of the base, which goes up to round 7. So I can show you the twin puffs. We'll skip onto the body, right? What we did here in the Okay, so let's skip on to the body. So round one of the body, it says working the back loops, you're going to single crochet in each stitch around. I'll show you how to do that for a few stitches just in case anyone needs to see that. Okay, so remember I'm joining my round with a slip stitch. Okay, now we do have a few more rounds to do, but we're going to skip ahead just, you know, for time. Okay, so on the body, it says same thing, join all the rounds with a slip stitch where indicated. But let's go to round one. It says to working in the back loops. Okay, so let's just do a single crochet. When it's the first of the round, if it says work in the back loops and it's the very first one, I never do it in the first one because it's too weird. So just to keep it nice and neat, we'll just do the first one through both loops. And we'll just make a regular single crochet like we would anywhere else, okay? And then for the next one, we want to work into the back loops. You can, oh, okay, okay, just want to make sure I'm up to, got everybody's questions in the chat. Okay. So my little, I don't know what I did with my little tapestry needle, but I'll use this. So see, we have a back loop here and a front loop here. So this is the front loop. This is the back loop. Back loop, front loop. So we just want to go in to that one loop. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two. So instead of putting my hook under both loops, I put it under just the back. If it says front loop only, you're going to put it under just the front. It's pretty basic, right? So you're just going to work a single crochet around each stitch, working only through the back loop. And then what will happen is, you see you'll have this little ridge here, and you can see it on the back here. And that just kind of makes it to where it's flat on the bottom, and then it kind of makes it point up like that. Like if you were making a baby shoe or something like that, I usually do that if I'm making a baby shoe. You just work one round into the back loop and it makes it like almost like a good way to turn it, because now here you're going to work all these rounds without any increases. So the bag starts to go up instead of just staying flat, because you want the base to be flat. And then you work in the back loop here. That will give it like a little bit of a turn up. And then for the rest, all these rounds that you work after the base will go around like in a tube instead of being flat, including the puff stitches, right? So you just work one round in the back loop, and then you work for the body. You're going to do 4 more rounds of just single crochet in both loops to make this part of the base. So let's pretend we did that, okay? Let's pretend we did our whole round of back loops, and then we did 4 more rounds of just single crochet to start forming the bag into the shape that it's going to be in. And then we'll do the puff stitches, okay? So everybody understand what I just said? So I want to make sure everybody gets that, because I'm kind of skipping those steps, but those are basic. So I want to move on to the puff stitches. Okay, so let's go to round 6. And it says beginning puff. All the pattern says is beginning puff. Okay. That's when you're going to have to move over to your stitch guide here and look and see what it says beginning puff is. And then it gives us the instructions for how to do the beginning puff. So I'm going to do, it might look a little, no, it should look fine on mine, even though I missed those steps. Okay, so we're going to chain up 2. Yarn over, insert hook in same space. yarn over, and I'm going in that same space that my chain came out of. Can you see that? There's my chain. I'm going into that same space right there. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull up a loop. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. Okay, now there's a parenthesis. So after the parentheses, it says twice. So that means I have to do what was within those parentheses twice. So go back to the first parentheses, yarn over, insert hook in same space, yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, insert my hook in the same space, yarn over, pull up a loop. And now you should have 5 loops on your hook. And then you just have to yarn over and pull through all those loops. And do it again so you can see that. So let's say I'm at the beginning of the round. You're going to start with a chain 2, 1, 2, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop. And then you just yarn over and pull through all those loops on your hook at once. That's it. That's all you have to do for the beginning puff. So let's look back to our pattern, and it says beginning puff, skip the next 2 stitches, and then twin puff in the next stitch. So we have to go back up here, and here's where the instructions for the twin puff is. Okay, and this is where you got to do a lot of reading. So then it says puff, chain 2, and then puff. Okay, well, what's a puff? And then it tells you the puff right here. So I kind of put all these words in here so that way I wouldn't have to put all this stuff every single step. So that's why I just wrote it like twin puff, puff, beginning puff, but it's all right here what you actually have to do, okay? So let's do pull up a loop 3 times. So we're going to start with a twin puff. So first we'll skip these 2 stitches, skip, skip, and then do a puff stitch, which is yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. And you can pull that up if you need to like that, so it's not squished down, right? So pull it up, and it says do that 3 times. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop. That's twice. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop. That's 3 times. And then you yarn over and pull through all those loops on your hook. So that's just a puff, and it says do a twin puff, and then it says a twin puff is a puff stitch, chain 2, puff stitch. And we're doing all that in the same stitch. I'll do this again, Sue, in case I know it's a lot, and I'm talking a lot, so. Okay, so let's do another puff in there. Yarn over, pull it up so you get some length. Once. Yarn over, pull through, twice. And yarn over, pull through 3 times. Yarn over, pull through all the loops on your hook. Okay, so this one is a twin puff. So I did a puff, a chain 2, and a puff. That's a twin puff. This one is just the beginning puff because that's at the beginning of the round. So you don't need both. You don't need both puffs because when we get to the end, I'll go through the whole round so you can see what happens when we get to the end. So it says beginning puff, skip next 2 stitches, twin puff in the next stitch, skip next 2 stitches, and repeat from the star around. So let's just do that all the way around so you'll get, you'll be able to practice it. So skip, skip, yarn over, go right into that next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and definitely give it a nice long pull up so you have some length, but keep it even throughout. Like don't try not to make some longer than others. I did that too. Yarn over, pull up, 2 and 3 times. Yarn over, pull through all those loops. Chain 2. And then we're going in the same stitch. Yarn over, pull up, 2, 3 times. Yarn over, pull through all those loops. That's my next one. Okay, you don't have to make any chains in between. You only make chains in between the 2 puffs. So skip, skip, pull up, twice, 3 times, yarn over, pull through, chain 2, into the same stitch. I'm doing another puff, 3. Skip, skip. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, and pull through. Is that looking good for everyone? I don't see any questions, so I'm guessing you guys are, you all are able to do this. It's easy when you see somebody do it. It can be very, very wordy when it's just a written pattern. Oops, did I do my 2 chains? I think so. Skip 2 and puff. 3, chain 2. Remember, into the same stitch, make your next puff. 3. Skip 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip 2, 1, 2, 3. Chain 2, 1, 2, and 3. See how that's coming along? Okay, so what will happen in the next round is, so once I go all the way around, let me go like this so I don't, because I know it's getting late. So what I'm going to do is pretend I went all the way around, okay, with those puff stitches. Pretend I came all the way around. I do twin puffs around the corner and everything. And then when I get to the end of my round, like let's say I'm at the end of my round here. Where will I end? Join to the beginning. Okay, so let's say I'm putting my last puff stitch right here. 1, 2, 3. I'm putting my last twin puff. Remember, you worked around the whole thing the right way. I'm just doing this in the, just for time. But you worked puffs, twin puffs all the way around. And then at the very end, here's the beginning of the round where you had just 1. What you'll do is you'll work a last puff stitch into that same spot. So just go right here and then do a last puff stitch. So 1, 2, and 3. So it ends up looking like a twin puff because you have it You have that first puff and then the next puff, and then you just join those two to the top like that. So it, there's twin puffs all the way around, right? Let's see if I can show you on the bag. It's hard to see where the beginning and the end of the round are because it really does blend in nicely. I can't even tell where the beginning of the round is. That's how nice and even it looks. Let's see, I think this might be it. This might be it. You can barely, yeah, this I think is it. So here's where the beginning of a round, and here's the end of the round. See, you can't even tell where there's like a seam, you know, you can sort of see it right here. But that's where it comes together. So when you work it in rounds like this, it makes a very, very nice finish where you can't even see it. You can barely see a little seam right there, which is not really a seam, it's a join. So that's where she joined each round. So that's how you do a nice even, so you don't see kind of a beginning or end of the round. And then once, with that first round, we were working into the single crochets, but for the next round, you're just going to be working your twin puffs into each of these chain 2 spaces. So you're going to do like a beginning, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So it gets a little bit easier after the first round because you're working into chain spaces. So beginning puff and then twin puff in the next chain 2 space, right? So we did those twin puffs. You're going to do those rather than working it into a single crochet, you're working them into the chain 2 spaces, which is going to go a lot quicker. So 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 1, 2, 3, right? And then I go to the next one, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 1, 2, 3. You can see how much quicker it is when it's always quicker to work into chain spaces than it is to work into the tops of single crochet stitches because of course, you know, it's a bigger space. That's why like granny squares are so quick to make. So yeah, so you're just going to keep doing that around and around and around and around until you can work to the height that you want. Really, if you want it shorter, just stop sooner. If you want it longer, just keep going. And then at the end, you're just going to do single crochets around, right? And then for the strap, all you have to do is do like a few rounds around. And then here, you just make a chain, right? So like you start like you're going around and then you stop here, you make a chain, say chain of whatever it is, 66, you make a chain of 66, and then you just go back onto the round. Go around and around and around for however many stitches it says. I think it's 28. Then you make another chain, 66. You skip these stitches on the bag, and then you get back, and then you attach it back to that round, and then you join it. So you're still working in rounds to make the straps. You just work those directly on there just by making a chain and skipping these stitches, okay? And then you're just gonna go back around and work into that chain that you made. These are very simple straps. You've probably done these on bags before. But that's it, that's the whole thing. So let me make sure I didn't have any questions before I say goodbye. Did we skip 2 of the puff spaces or no skipping once the puffs are in? So that's a good question. The only time we have to skip, right, is here on the base because we're working into the single crochets. So you skip 2 and then work a twin puff, and then you skip 2 and work a twin puff. See how I skipped 2 in there? once you work that very first round, that's working into the single crochets, it gets easier because you don't have to worry about skipping anything. You just work each twin puff right into the chain 2 space. So you're skipping the puffs, you're not doing anything into the puffs, but you're working these twin puffs right into the chain 2 space. So you don't really have to count anything, right? You just work them into each chain 2 space, if that makes sense. You don't have to worry about skipping anything, only on that very first round. Okay, she said thank you, so I think she got it. All right, I think that's everything. Any more questions before we go? Okay, good. And you can always rewatch these videos. I know we always have to go fast because there's so much to go over, but you can always rewatch it, and the pattern is in the link for you to print. And I hope you guys come and see me another time. I do this once a month over at Michael's. So mostly crochet, but we're going to do something fun next month. And then in a few months, we'll do Tunisian. So all kinds of stuff. So thank you so much for joining me. And I hope to see you again next time. Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.